All right, welcome to another episode of Unusual Profits. I'm your host, Michael Girdley. We are trying an experiment today. Our format so far for Unusual Profits has been interviews of people that run niche businesses. Today is actually me and a guest, Shinghi, our co-host, Shinghi, and we are going to try something different, and we're just going to spend a half hour or so and talk about business ideas that we have seen, money-making schemes, things that look interesting, and the things that have inspired us to consider those. And the idea for us, and hopefully for the listeners, is to get inspired to be more entrepreneurial. A lot of people want to do something but don't have an idea. So this podcast forced us to get out and talk about some ideas. And I connected with Shinghi on Twitter, and I had asked everyone, like, who generates more startup ideas per tweet than anybody else you know? And universally, the answer was Shinghi. So I reached out and I said, hey, let's do this podcast together and go from there. So we'll get started. Shinghi, good morning to you. Thanks for being here with me.
Morning, Michael.
Cool. So I think you have the first one. So pitch me on what you got, Shinghi.
So I don't like working out. And it's kind of like a really struggle for me to kind of like get a consistent workout and to be able to stay healthy and all the rest, right? But I love money. So the idea here is that it's a gym membership which costs an outrageous amount of money. It's like $3,000 a month, and it's like a normal gym. It's like your 24-hour fitness. But your monthly due decreases by $100 for every hour of exercise. So the goal here is that you want your money back from the gym, so you're going to go and work out. And if you don't work out, you're losing money. And it has to be like, it's going to be different for every person, like what's a lot of money, but the goal is to get you to the gym. And the gym is taking bets on people.
How much is the membership? You said it's like $3,000 a month for this gym?
For me, that would be enough to get me to go to the gym. If I'm going to lose $3,000 a month by not going, I'm going to be there.
So the scheme is like you got to pay a ton of money, and then the gym wins if you don't actually use it. Is that basically the whole scheme?
Yeah, so you can do it in a couple different ways. You can do it as like a friend betting app, right? So it's like, I'll bet you that I'm going to go to the gym 50% of the year. I'll bet you $1,000. Okay, and then it's kind of encoding that bet into the app. You pay the money up front, and then you're going to link with like Peloton or whatever services or your Apple Watch to prove that you did the workouts. And if you don't do it, your friend gets the money. That's an alternative. So you can either pay the gym or you can do this with your friends. I think the friends and the social part is probably going to be more fun.
I've actually seen this also. There was a meme around these kind of ideas maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And another way people did it was, okay, you're going to pay $1,000 a month for this gym, and we give you a $50 credit every time you work out. Some of the other people were trying like, okay, like we'll donate the money on your behalf for every time you make it to the gym. So there were some creative things there. And then I remember exactly what you're talking about. There was some other startup that was like trying to make it like pure accountability. So like you each put up $500 a month, and whoever works out more, like it's like a tug of war that way. Like you give them money to the other people, and then they all kind of disappeared. So I don't know really what happened with these. I think that'd be one way. If I was going to do this idea, I'd want to go dig in and see what happened with that kind of meme of similar ideas to this. But I totally love the inspiration to it. Like, especially if somebody's money motivated, like,
right.
Like, let's see if you're really serious.
Well, I mean,
like, okay,
you don't even need to be the one that's money motivated. It could be your wife, and she doesn't want you to lose her money. So that's a lot of motivation right there.
We can't go out because you didn't go to the gym. Get off your ass.
Exactly. But I'm doing this with a friend right now. So it's $1,000 bet for the year. I need to work out 50% of the year. He's doing a little bit more because he's more athletic. But if I don't, I owe him $1,000. So I'm going to be working out every other day.
So how are you solving for like cheating? Like, are you guys just, how are you dealing with that?
So
problem?
We're Peloton bros, we're on that Peloton. So it's basically, it's impossible to cheat. I mean, you can cheat, I guess, I can throw my kid on there or something. Yeah. And
all right.
And if we don't do Peloton, real bike rides like through Strava are going to count too. So that's how we're going to do it.
Okay, so you could just give your cycle computer to one of your buddies, tell them to go run around in a circle. Okay. No, there's some honor system here. There's much. Okay, so are you going to pursue this as like a real idea, or are you just doing it with a friend?
With a friend. It's a good idea. I don't think it'd be that hard to build. It would just be a simple betting. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to call it a betting app, but you need to call it something so it's not a betting app. Yeah, it would be very hard.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here, I got one for you. So this is an idea like I've had for a long time. And hopefully that won't be a sign that this podcast goes to crap when we like run out of all the ideas I've had banked up. But this is an interesting one. So Sam Parr tweeted this, and if you're on YouTube, you can see the tweet. I pulled it up, and he basically talked about how we've all realized that individuals, whether they're kids or adults, are predisposed to do particular sports better. So he talked about some of these things, like if you have a long Achilles, you're able to jump high. By the way, I have a short Achilles. I can't jump at all. And then there's different sports like Olympic weightlifting and stuff like that, where if you're built a certain way, you're really good at those things. Right? Like you have a lot of fast twitch muscles, you're very strong, but you also want to have like super short legs and a long torso. Like that's how you get good at Olympic weightlifting.
Right.
So the idea I've had was you go create a system that is enabling parents to go identify what sports their kids are naturally predisposed to be good at. And you put together and study a bunch of kids. You correlate that to where they can predict based on measurements that say a physical therapist does, to where you can give a score and say, oh, did you know your kid is genetically predisposed to be the top 5, archery professional. Like they could go to the Olympics in archery, but most parents have no idea how to do that. So the system is you go sell this to physical therapists. And you say, okay, like here's the system we've built, and you can go run these batteries of tests and expand your practice. Like charge rich parents $1,500 or $2,500 to do these tests. And the reason you want PTs to do it is not only are you doing some cognitive stuff, but you're also going and measuring the kids, like how long is your femur? Like that's super important. Like what type of body mass do you typically have? What is your VO2? But then you also want to take and measure their mobility, because mobility also affects how well you can do certain stuff. So anyway, I saw Sam do this. I think it's a viable idea. I think I'm precisely the wrong person to work on it, but I think there's an opportunity here where all of those parents who want the best for their kids are definitely willing to pay a couple grand to have a score and say, oh, like, would you like a free scholarship to Harvard? Well, you need to get really good at the, pentathlon, right? And here are the things, right? You're going to be good at shooting and the sword thing, all that kind of stuff. So that's idea number one for me.
I think it's a solid idea, actually. I mean, I think if you could probably charge like $4.99 for the sports evaluation genetic test or whatever. It doesn't even need to be genetic, I guess. It's just the measurement test. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's gonna be.
When I think you
sad for the kids who don't have any of that. You're genetically predisposed to be not good at sports. Sorry to tell you, son.
Yeah, well, and maybe that's where like, hey, you should consider like chess, the chess club. That's what it is. So anyway, so that was the idea from Sam. And where he noticed this thing happening. But I think the business model that you actually do is consistent with the way like LASIK and those sort of machines work, where those machines, when you get LASIKs done, a lot of them basically they give the machine almost for free to the doctor. And then it's like, good, every time you run this surgery, you owe us $500. And like, we take care of everything else. There's a lot of business models like that with these machines or systems. And so there's very little to no upfront cost to sign up like the physical therapist as well. So the cool thing about this versus a LASIK machine, which is probably $15 million to install over the lifetime of the thing, is this is just like, you pay some guys at Vanderbilt or whatever to run some studies for you. And then you come out with some predictive algorithms.
Right.
So that's the whole idea of helping parents like identify their kids and what they should be doing instead of, throwing everybody in youth soccer.
I think it's solid. I think this is a solid idea. And I mean, I personally am not like super into sports, nor do I want my kids, like I'm fine if they want to play sports, but I'm not like going to be pushing them. But there's a lot of parents that are like really into sports and they want their kids to be athletes. And like, I could see this definitely being something for them.
Yeah, dig it. Okay, well, cool. Thanks for hearing that.
It's a good idea.
Good news.
I'm invested.
I'm not doing anything with it. I have I have three calibers of ideas, or three tiers of ideas. Idea tier three, the idea sucks. It's just pretty straightforward. I will not try to bring you any sucky ideas. I have tier two, which is ideas that I think are pretty good and are worth examining, but I can just tell like I am the exact wrong person to work on this idea or be involved in it in any way, other than to just see it. I got a ton of those. More than happy to talk about them, and I'm never going to pursue them. Tier one is I'm the right person and it's the right time for me, and this is a great idea. I'll share some of those too, but this is definitely a tier two idea. I am the wrong person to work on this idea, and I'm not really that passionate about it, frankly. So
yeah,
cool. Let's move on. What do you got?
It's really similar for me, actually. Like my tier two, tier three ideas are ideas to make my life better, and those are the ones I actually post on Twitter. I keep some of my tier. I put some up, but most of my tier ones are kept closely. One day I'll work on them.
I hear you.
All right. So let's go to a one I just thought of this morning. So construction uncle. All right.
Construction
so
uncle. Okay.
We're renovating a house on our Airbnb property. And we got like a quote, the quote was like $250,000 for the renovation. And I really trust the contractor, and I got a really good feeling. But then I have this like, am I getting ripped off? Have you ever had that where you get a quote maybe from your plumber and you're just like, is that right? All right. So who did I call? Well, I called a family friend who's a contractor, and I asked him for advice. I asked him, does this sound reasonable? I kind of walked him through what I was doing, and he's like, you're getting a great deal. I was like, hell, I'll pay $250,000 now because I know I'm getting a great deal. A lot of people don't have a construction uncle. So how can we solve that problem? Well, we will create a service of construction uncles. So for like a 20-minute phone call, you pay, I don't know, $50 or something. And you go over what they're charging you, what they're doing, and they'll say, yeah, that's a good idea, or that's fair, or you're being scammed. And there you have it. And it could be like a bunch of like New Jersey contractors or like New York contractors who are like super gruff and tell you straight up. And then for an added fee, they'll renegotiate with the contractor who gave you the bid. They'll call them. This is partly inspired by Curb Your Enthusiasm by Leon. He did this in the last season. So I'll give some credit there.
No, I love it. Okay, so are you positioning this as an actual viable business, or do you think this is just something that should exist?
I think there's some viability here. I think a lot of people get ripped off, and they're curious if they're getting ripped off. So it doesn't maybe need to be a construction uncle that you're calling, but like a very good way to measure bids. Yeah. You run a bid through your system.
Yeah, that makes me wonder. Like, is there a glass door for bidders? Like, oh, this person, won the deal and lost the deal. I don't know. I'm just thinking about the same problem from the other direction. I've often talked about the idea of having Glassdoor for lawyers. Have I pitched you on this?
No, let's hear that. How does that work?
So, this was not on my list of ones prepared for today. So Glassdoor for lawyers is basically like an anonymous site where you could go in and do what Glassdoor does for employees, but you do it for lawyers. So like if the other side, like I think we've all been involved in like a deal where the other side brings just like an awful lawyer, and you're just like, gosh, like a Google review is not bad enough for this person. Like I would not recommend this lawyer on anybody. And you can go in and you can submit like, your review of them, just like Glassdoor is for jobs. This is for like, oh, I've dealt with this particular lawyer. So that's the whole business. And then I think the business model for Glassdoor for lawyers is the same way. Like it's like basically the Yelp business model. So they just go extort money out of small businesses. So it's basically the same thing.
I actually had a really similar idea when I was at Amazon, but it was Rate My Professor, right? Yeah. It was Rate My Manager. So you rate how good a manager is inside a big corporate company. And then it becomes really obvious, like you want to avoid that person as much as possible.
Stay away from this guy.
Yeah. Because at Amazon, that's a big problem. Look, if you get a bad manager, or any corporate setting, it's like you're not going to have a great time.
Yeah. All right. So here's my problems with Construction Uncle as a viable business and things I would want to dig into. is, with all of these kind of consumer businesses, you have two things you got to really look out for. So number one is like substitution options, like that reduces your pricing power. And like you ended up calling like somebody, the
Right.
challenge is a lot of people know somebody in construction who are going to do this for free, just like construction workers. So you got to worry about that. And then that ties into your second problem, which is like consumer stuff like this that is very niche, that is irregular and somewhat low value, and therefore people are not willing to pay that much for it. It creates pretty hard CAC problems, like customer acquisition problems.
Right.
Like, can you afford to pay the hundreds of dollars it's going to take to get a customer and then serve them profitably and do customer service and all that kind of stuff? So that'd be my worry about this. I don't know if that Venn diagram of what people are willing to pay and how much it's going to cost you to attract them is something that makes this profitable and a real viable business.
I see that. I also see, though, that like millennials are going to run into a big problem because a lot of millennials don't know how to fix things.
Yeah.
Tons and tons of them. Most of them don't. It's like one of my pet peeves. If you don't know how to fix things, it's like, what are you doing? So, yeah, but I completely agree. This is
Well, I do think there's a huge opportunity for FaceTime handyman services. And it's basically just like people who know how to handyman, sitting in a call center somewhere, walking you through how to do stuff, right? Like,
Right.
here's the video. Oh, you need to go, we need to send you this part, or you need to go here and get this part, or, oh, you need to know how to change this light bulb or install a pet door. Like, here, go do this step, call me back, and I'll coach you through it. I think there's some value around that. And that is potentially a bigger market than Construction Uncle, because it's like we're enabling people to do it themselves.
Construction Uncle is the add-on to that then. Perfect.
The bonus. Okay.
But I
Cool.
love the name,
this one.
Construction Uncle. Like, I mean, that's just like, it's got a ring to it.
Who cares if it's a real business as long as the name's cool? That's what I say. All right. Let's see what else I got here. So this is one that's like a pattern I've noticed that I wanted to talk about. So one thing I noticed is this Substack, which is called Director Moves. And I heard rumors that Director Moves, so it's basically a Substack that what it does is you pay a subscription for it, and it is some folks that all they do is curate when directors move amongst companies. And that gives you trading signal if you're watching a particular stock and you're an asset allocator to know what's going on with directors. So I saw that and I was like, that's really interesting. Like, that is a highly valuable automated piece of information. Like, that seems like a good business design pattern, right? So I kept that in mind. And then I saw this, and it's a tweet by a guy who was talking about his small business, and basically he built something similar, but he built it as a direct-to-consumer thing, not necessarily through the Substack platform. But it's a content. He described it as a content site that provides real-time notifications when a CEO buys shares of their own company. So again, this idea of basically taking what Bloomberg does for you, which is aggregate all this content and narrow it down to a signal that's like super important to you and charge you money for it. So I saw that this guy, like, he's asking $50,000 for a business that is doing about, $700 a month in revenue that he did as a sideline. So it makes me really wonder, like, what other things could you look at that are really valuable niche pieces of information and then create channels around that and sell it directly to people? Because we're all in this world right now where there's like too much information flying at us. And like, how do you narrow that down to like one piece of information that's like super duper valuable for somebody and they pay you for that curation? So that's the extent of the idea. Like, I don't know if there's anything here, but I feel like if I wanted to go build some niche content stuff around this, I'd go talk to some people and be like, what piece of information do you really wish you knew? And use that to go then build a targeted piece of subscription, content for them. So that's the core of the idea there.
I really like this idea. It kind of what got me thinking is like, all right, it's the shop. If you do the Shopify model where, Shopify isn't an e-commerce platform. They're an app store is what they really are. At least that's what I tell Toby he is. So you get like basically if you build a really good data analytics platform that can have inputs, like this is an app that you add on to your platform. Like I want to know when CEOs sell their shares, or I want to know when CEOs buy their shares, or I want to know when directors come and go, right? Or I want to know when, this company spends this much on lobbying. Like it would be a really cool, simple platform that you can add these individual apps to and pay subscriptions to per app. As kind of a larger view, and it could be a finance platform specific to that. But yeah, I think these tiny little ideas could be very good and simple. I mean, he probably spent like a couple weekends on this, and he can make $50,000 on it.
Yeah. Well, who knows if the guy's going to get 50 grand for it? At least he's asking for it. But I think the interesting parallel here is ultimately this is also Twitter's business model. Like everybody's like, how can Twitter make so much money with such crappy like advertising and stuff like that? And it turns out the advertising is just noise. What they're doing in the background is selling all of our tweets and information about the tweets and the metadata of the tweets to the highest bidder, right? Whether it's the NSA or the hedge funds, like they're all. Yeah, they're all, those are all getting read. Yeah. They're all getting read. They're all getting processed by data centers somewhere in Reston, Virginia that have a couple guys standing around them with machine guns. But yeah, I mean, you go look at the data business. That's where Twitter makes their money. And they're just doing it at a broader scale because they have better data than anybody else does. And it's also interesting because of all the kind of tech giants, like everybody else takes the data they have and makes their money through the application of it. So Google, Netflix, all that kind of stuff. And then you look at Twitter and they're the one that's actually the unicorn or decacorn that is actually making money just from selling the data, right? It's super fascinating. It also may be why Twitter's like the worst revenue business of all of those. It's because they haven't figured out how to truly leverage it, and they're letting their Citadel or whoever, the hedge fund guys, SAC Capital, those guys make the real money off of their data, and they just haven't figured out how to do it. So anyway, that's the pitch. I don't know if there's an idea here. I just see this as a design pattern for businesses. It's like, go curate a piece of data that people want to know, and then you can monetize the heck out of that thing, and it won't cost you much, especially if you can figure out how to automate the thing.
Right. I think Twitter is also like, I mean, you could build that same kind of API on top of Twitter to be like breaking news or to be able to make decisions based on what the conversations are on Twitter. Because I feel like that's where the news happens first most of the time. So you can catch it quickly.
Well, and so Twitter actually sells different levels of their feed. And then there is one that, I don't know if this is still the case, but when I talked to people back in the day, there's a fire hose setting where it's like, we have 100% access to all the tweets. And like, it's like the top whatever customers, the ones who are willing to pay everything, the 3-letter agencies, the multi-billion-dollar hedge funds, like the people who pay for that information and are creating algos that trade off of that signal, or whatever.
So they are doing
it. It totally
cool.
It totally is there. It totally is there. And yeah, it's there. You just got to pay for it. All right, hit me with this Roomba for gold.
All right, this is a good one.
I want you to hit me with this Roomba for gold.
All right.
I looked at this one you brought me. This is cool. I'm going to pull this one up.
So, you see people like metal detecting on the beach, right? Or, in their yard or in a place where there's known to be maybe some treasure.
Yeah.
And then you see the lawnmowers these days, like they have these autonomous lawnmowers.
Yeah, sure.
Right? They're like little Roomba robots, but they mow your lawn. I was like, what if you combine those two things? So you have an autonomous robot that is looking for gold. So it's basically got a little metal detector underneath it and just going out in the pastures, and it just goes back and forth. And it's maybe got some big tires on it so it can go over some hills and stuff. I think this is a great idea. And I don't think it would cost that much to build. It would cost about as much as a lawnmower. And you can make your money back. You could put some you make your money back guaranteed as part of the sales pitch. So
a Roomba metal. So could you take this even further? I mean, the other thing that comes to mind is I've had friends that have been in the mining business.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know if you've ever heard how like mining discoveries work, but it's like people raise some money, or they go drill a few holes, and the holes come back and they're like, there might be gold here, or there might be zinc here. And then you go raise some money to go drill some more holes and get some more leases around you. And those kind of narrow down the pattern. And then you do it again, you raise some more money, drill some more holes, and you keep doing it again. And then eventually you get to a point where you're like, okay, now that we've blown through $13 million worth of holes, we have this three-dimensional picture of where this vein of whatever is, gold, diamonds, XYZ, right? And only then do you build the mine. And every time I'm in Colorado or a mountain state, I'm like, there has got to be like somewhere in there is some gold. This is what that feeling is what caused the gold rush.
Right.
So, but it made me wonder, like, man, like, could you do like a Roomba, but for underground? Like build one of these things that basically you dig it in, the dirt falls in behind it, and the thing just like keeps going around down through, what was the name of the movie with Kevin Bacon where like the things like crawled around underneath the sand? Tremors, yeah. So basically it's Tremors, but for gold. That's the pitch.
I like it.
So yeah, I mean, it's great you can find what's on the surface. Anybody could do that, but Tremors for your fortune, like, be pretty cool. Now I think there's some second order problems with this. Like, what happens when you go like under someone's property and destabilize the heck out of it because your trimmer like decided to like go do some circles underneath their house? Like, you got to be careful with this one. So
yeah, I mean,
so that's it. Tremors.
I like it. I like these it's like we'll sell real passive income here. The passive income is like it's going to go find gold for you. So
yeah. Who needs? Yeah, you just go out and mine stuff. So
there you go.
Cool. I think I just totally co-opted your idea.
Let's do it.
Okay, I got another one.
Right.
So this got actually inspired by a guy I really like to read up in Austin, Dennis Hegstad, and so he sold a company that was built on the Shopify platform. So basically, it was a cool business. What they did, and his Twitter handle is Dennis Hegstad. He's got sweet tattoos too. I'm a Gen X. So I don't have tattoos. That's just the way this works. But he's a millennial, so they do what they want. Anyway, so he sold a business that was super cool. It was basically he built a system that when somebody put something in their shopping cart on Shopify or another system, they would go and follow up with the people who had put something in the cart but didn't close. And be like, hey, can we give you a discount? Can we close you? And then the revenue model was super cool, where they had the they split a fee on the revenue he generated that was net new for the company. So it was basically whatever that is, the hung cart prevention, like how do you reduce the number of those? So he sold that business, did really well. Now his Twitter is full of fancy cars, so I think he did pretty good. But now he has a new business, which is bumping up, getting people to do add-ons or grow their orders inside of Shopify stores. So it's like, hey, you've got these 2 books, in your shopping cart. Amazon says, like, do you want to add on this other stuff, right? And shows you some stuff. And your grocer does that and that sort of thing. So really cool idea there. But I mean, I think the broader thing here is like, there is money to be made if you go and pick a platform that is directly like turning into a rocket ship, whether it's Salesforce or whether it's any of these things. And you say like, I'm going to make this platform slightly better and build add-ons for it. Right. And in most of these cases, you have platforms like Salesforce, like Shopify. They're happy for you to exist because they know they're building a platform, which it's different in the Amazon ecosystem. Amazon is going to come eat your lunch. But like, I think if you pick a platform that's on the direction to treat you well, you can build businesses like this order bump, like the lost cart recovery, and just do super duper well. Like just do really well feeding off their ecosystem. So there's no specific idea there. It's just like, like if there's some problem they're not solving inside of Shopify, like go figure out how to take care of that.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of businesses, like if I'm going to go into tech, it's like, this is what I want to do. Like an app for Shopify. And you literally, it's the beauty of it is you don't even need to be the first to market or the only to market. You just need to be an option.
Yeah.
And maybe have slightly better features. Like their ecosystem's so large that you can survive in that. The other thing that I think is really going to be big is cross-platform data. Right now, data is so like singular. So it's basically you have your Shopify data and you have your Amazon data, and no one's really building something that's talking to each other and telling you everything that's happening in your business. So I think that's a huge opportunity for people to build. And again, it would make my life easier. So please go build that.
Yeah. The one dashboard to rule them all.
Right.
Well, I think we talked about this last time we got together. Like, Basically, like every enterprise software company gets to a point where they realize they can't sell anything more until they become agreeable to the C-suite, and they discover that C-suite loves dashboards. So if you got to make anything look good in your enterprise software, you make the dashboards look good, and then everything else can look like crap.
Right.
By the way, this is like just insert Salesforce anywhere. Like I'm talking about is like this is Salesforce. Like they've got great reporting, and everything else is like people hate it. So you have an option here to go and like that's how you do it. So yeah, one dashboard to rule them all. Everybody wants a dashboard, especially if your title starts with C.
It's how Tableau did so well, because Oracle and these guys couldn't do anything with the data to make it look pretty. And then Tableau just kind of like, woohoo, we'll do that. And
there you go.
Unicorn,
there you go. Well, awesome, man. So I think we're coming up on 30 minutes. We'll save some for next time. I'm sure you'll have more. But great job. We'll get this out. It's an experiment to see what people think. Your amount of creativity on the ideas is awesome. So, and then I think next week we're recording with Hayden, who works with me, and we'll have whatever 1.5 times the ideas, depending on how much we let Hayden talk.
I love it.
And by that I mean I'll just talk over people. That's just the way this works.
Well, I gotta leave with one more, one quick one.
One more,
this
okay.
Is just for fun.
A bonus one.
All right, this is for them YouTubers out there. Here's a million idea for you YouTubers. All right, so you go to like, I don't know, the Las Vegas Strip or somewhere in LA, and you put a bunch of Bitcoin stickers on flash drives or Ethereum or whatever you want to do, and then you just happen to drop them on the sidewalk. And you don't drop all of them in one place, but kind of one, and then you wait for reactions of people. If I found a flash drive with a Bitcoin sticker on it or an Ethereum sticker, I would be out of my mind. So I think it would be very relevant and a very funny video for a prank video. But it'd be even better what you put on it, what you actually have on it when they go look.
So it does blow my mind that there's no more, like back in the 70s and 80s, there used to be like these hidden camera and prank shows and stuff like that. It does kind of blow my mind that nobody's done that on YouTube yet. And I think last time we talked, I shared an idea with you that was in a similar like YouTube content thing. But basically the idea for this show would be you go find families that are husband and wife with kids, and you offer them a free vacation courtesy of the channel. But then what you do is you get the dad's picture or the mom's picture, and you Photoshop them into the family photos that you leave around the Airbnb you give them, and then you film the reaction and you put that on YouTube. Like, how could that not be amazing?
It would be amazing.
As a show.
It would be even better if you do it completely without them knowing they're on the show. Like that's the next level.
It's got to be. Yeah, but like if you give them the free show, you have them sign the releases, and you're like, okay, like this is actually, we're doing a documentary series about, how families are so constrained by the pandemic, and helping them get away and seeing that relief and sharing that with the world. And in the backside, it's really just a prank show. I think anyway, like this is a tier 2 idea for me because I just don't have a sustained level of mean in my body to do something like that. Like I just couldn't, it would be so mean. And there's no way I could do it. But I do think it would make for some crazy TV when you see the mom or the dad's face seeing their spouse photoshopped in to the family photos from another family. I just think it would do some crazy stuff. Somebody go do that. Do not credit me for this idea. You can have it. I don't want to be associated with it. It's too mean, but it would be pretty darn funny to see.
You almost like you want the husband or wife to show up earlier than the other. So they're walking around before the husband's there, and then they see the pictures. And then the husband walks into this situation. Oh man, you can make it really good. Anyway.
There's some dangerous stuff. You gotta hide the knives.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's why nobody's done this. There's just too much liability.
Right.
Awesome, man. All right.
Cool.
Well, we'll try again next week. And if any of y'all listen to this, definitely interested in your feedback and what you think about the format and the experimentation here. From a personal standpoint, like I'm a big believer right now, assets are expensive. So it's a great time to create assets, and creativity is how you get there. So thanks to Shinghi for doing this. And for me, this is all about, getting creative juices going and having some fun along the way. So excited to do it from a personal standpoint as well. So thanks for being here, man.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Michael.